The Hangout is live. I think this is going. All right. Assuming it is. I'm getting a little bit of feedback now on the audio, just so you know. I don't know if you can turn down a little bit on your end or.
Sure. You know what I could do? Let me put my earbuds in.
All right. We'll give that a shot.
That'll solve that problem. All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Great. So, cool. Okay. Yeah. I think the beginning of every live stream is something like this.
Exactly.
Sort of
it's the requisite working things out part of the live stream.
Right.
All right. Now, the other thing I was hoping I'd be able to find here is the ability to share my screen while we're doing this. Here's the little 3 dots. No apps. Control room. Eject any bad actors. No. What do I want here? Cameraman.
So I've got on the left, if I move my cursor over to the left, there's a screen share option. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah. Boom. Nice green button.
Yep.
All right. Now, let's go application window. Probably be this guy. All right, hold on. Let me adjust some things here so I'm on the right screen.
Cool.
And I'm still getting a little bit of feedback from your audio. I don't know if any of it's coming out of your computer or if it's just an artifact of doing this.
This is kind of weird. It's because you would think it would be maybe settings. Oh, here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's the tone has
Cool.
definitely changed.
Great.
All right. Well, let's begin in earnest now.
Okay.
Jonathan, thanks for joining me here. This is Jonathan Odom. He is a on-staff designer at Instructables, and I've been following his work for a long time. I'm sure a lot of you, if there are any of you, I got 4 viewers, maybe 2 of them are you and I, but I've been a big fan of Jonathan's work over the past year. If you watch any of the Maker updates, you've seen me talk about Jonatron and his many creations on Instructables. I'm really happy to have you here, Jonathan. And specifically in this particular test broadcast, we're going to be talking about your flip-top CNC work table. And I'm going to let you talk a little bit, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to share the screen of the actual Instructable so we can go through it as you talk. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me. And thanks for always being so supportive and putting my projects on your videos all the time. It means a lot, man. It's really cool.
Well, I'm just a fan. I'm geeking out whenever I see you post stuff. So I'm going to try to control my fanboy impulses right now and,
Okay.
and kick over to your Instructable. So
Cool.
people who are tuning in right now, you can find the link to this Instructable, hopefully in the notes of the video. So that should be easy to get to. You can also, I think there's a link there to Jonathan's whole, all of his work on Instructables and his website that I encourage you to go through. It's they're all hits. they're all worth checking out.
I don't know about that, but I'm proud of some of it.
All right, now let's see if I got this screen here. Is there a way that I think I can kind of permanently put it up if I click on it? Yeah. So now try talking about it and we'll see if it just stays on this. I think it should.
Okay. Yeah. So this is my flip top CNC table. It's basically I share a garage with my landlords, and there's not a whole lot of space, and I have this Shapeoko XXL that they gave us at Instructables, and we didn't have any room for it in the shop and needed a home. So I thought it'd be great to have my own in my garage. So I made it flip top because, like I said, there's really no space down here. So and I use it maybe 10% of the time, if that. And most of the time I just kind of need a big work table to put projects together when I'm working from home. So yeah, it's all plywood. It's all CNC plywood. It's uh, um, finger jointed, basically. All the joints go together like that with screws, and it's got a couple of big ball bearings and bushings and shafts in the middle that let it swivel. And then it's got these set screws that keep it rigid when it's in one position or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and now I know that you in the beginning of this Instructable, you spend a good amount of time fairly going over the fact that you made this at the Pier 9 workshop at Autodesk, and that you had access to a lot of tools, including this giant ShopBot and your water jet and all kinds of tools that people don't have handy around their own garage.
Right.
But that this your contention is that this is still a project that with digital files you could create by hand using a jigsaw and the templates that you've included in this Instructable, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much all my projects can be done this way. Anything that has to do with CNC, there might be a few exceptions there, but yeah, just about anything you could definitely do this way.
And this is a nice kind of segue to another Instructable that you did years ago on how to take digital fabrication files and render them with hand tools. And there's a link to this in your Instructable. Yeah.
So this was just kind of when I got to Autodesk, like you said, I instantly had access to this amazing world-class shop with all these super high-end machines and CNC and laser this and everything. And I of course, having sympathy for almost everyone who doesn't have access to this stuff but still wants to make stuff, I just made an Instructable of how I used to do this kind of thing. So first couple of years of college, the school I went to obviously didn't have a CNC machine. That was in 2000. So when I was making projects like this, I did it exactly like this. I made digital files and printed them out, and then spray adhesive to a piece of plywood, and then use a drill and a jigsaw to cut it out. So you really only need a few tools, and you can make just about anything this way. So there's no reason to forego digital fabrication or forego digital design, right? You can still design things in 3D and lay them out flat and make some really complex stuff.
And this is something I really want to get into. In fact, I was thinking of all the tools I really want to have in my workshop, maybe getting one of those like large format vinyl cutter machines.
Yeah.
Would be really useful for putting designs like this onto a nice sheet of plywood and then just cutting it out by hand and being happy with the results of that.
Yeah, then you don't have to breathe in the chemicals from spray adhesive. And the other thing you can do with it is a vinyl cutter is like those things are pretty amazing because you can use them as templates for finishing details, spray painting. There's a lot of options with those machines. We have one at the pier I use quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, but now for this particular example that we're still on for the digital fabrication by hand, you had this printed out. You said you went to like kind of like an architectural blueprint printing place, or you could do that, but maybe you did it at Pier 9.
There were a few times I went. I think I might have actually gotten this from a local print shop, because there was a while there where we didn't have this machine, or maybe I wasn't checked off on it or something. But yeah, there's pretty much anywhere you live. Like I've lived in small towns that still have this. There's still a print shop that does this because people need large format plans for construction, basically architects and contractors. So Kinko's does it, but you can find local mom and pop shops that have large format printing pretty much anywhere at least in the US and Canada, as far as I know.
Yeah. And now, is the material that you print onto, is that any special material, or is it just, it looks like almost has like a glossy look to it? Or?
Yeah, that looks like, I think that was probably sticky back vinyl. And because like you said, that's a little bit easier to deal with, but it doesn't matter because it's disposable. If you weren't using the sticky back vinyl stuff, I'd recommend using Super 45 spray adhesive. Usually it's Super 77, which is fine, but it's a little bit too much adhesion for this. So if you can find 45, it just comes off easier. It's like strong enough to hold it down while you're cutting, but you can take it off pretty easily, and it doesn't leave a lot of goop behind.
Yeah, I've done the Super 77 a few times before, and my lungs have paid the price.
Yeah, and it likes to stick around when it's done.
Yeah. All right. Let me bounce out of that and back to your CNC table. So just so that people aren't checking out right off the bat, thinking that they need to have a shop bot handy to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And then going through the hardware, there's some elements that you printed out. You 3D printed out some like thumb screw attachments, right? But
yeah,
most of the hardware here is coming from McMaster-Carr, or you can get some of this stuff locally, I'm sure. But
yeah, really the stuff you get from McMaster-Carr would be the bearings and the bushings. Mm-hmm. Those are a little bit harder to find at like your local hardware store, but yeah, you can get them there. And you know, the thing to keep in mind with those especially is, I mean, you see those are $40 a piece. These were left over from another project that needed these really high-end, you know, high capacity bearings, and I just had them sitting around the shop, so they're totally overkill. You know, while we're here, maybe a thing to do would be to search Lazy Susan bearings in McMaster right there. And after I put it together, like I said, I just used some hardware I had laying around, but I realized that these would be a much better choice for the flip mechanism, because they have a much bigger, what's called a moment, right? So the moment connection on this thing is very it's very small. It's only because the thing's only like 1.5 inches in diameter, right? But these things can be this big, so you don't get a lot of wobble with this stuff. There's a much stronger connection between the parts. So if I were to do it again, I would definitely use Lazy Susan bearings, and they're much cheaper. If you go to the ones up at the top there,
yeah, they're starting to get pretty expensive as I scroll down.
Yeah, that's McMaster, man. It's like if you're trying to make a paper mill, this is where you go and buy your crazy stuff. But yeah, right. See, I mean, how much is that? $5, $10?
Yeah,
that'd be the way to do it if I were to do it again.
Cool. I love coming across new parts I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, those things are awesome, man. I have a few projects where I use those and made my life a lot easier.
Yeah, I need like a Instructables employee like yourself to help me navigate McMaster-Carr in general, because mostly if I ever find myself clicking over into it, I just have a panic attack and have paralysis and don't buy anything.
It's overwhelming in the beginning, but you know, if you get used to it.
All right, just looking at other things that are on here, wood screws. I thought these threaded inserts were pretty interesting too, and these were to help lock the table in place. Is that right? Or
yeah, basically it's a nut that gets embedded in the plywood. So the part that has the CNC on it, the table part in the middle, has these at the corners, right? So there's 8 of them. And then the thumb screws go from the inside of the shelf and stick into those. So if you can see it there, if you move your mouse up, move your cursor up, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
And there's another one down at the bottom. So 8 points basically where it's connecting. And yeah, the threaded inserts are how that works.
All right.
And the thumb screws, you can buy those. You don't have to use a 3D printer for them. I just did it because it was a lot cheaper than buying them. I just used a little bolt and designed a little part and 3D printed it, and it was, you know, I saved probably $40.
Yeah. Now this is where you and I are different species, because the fact that you designed this entire thing in Fusion 360 down to the wood grain, it looks like I can open.
That's the easy part.
I can open, and this is I really aspire to get there someday, but I can't think this way yet, but I'm glad that you can, and that you've included all the templates for these as both DXF files and PDF files that people can check out and just use them as templates for getting their own design done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it just takes practice, and if you start with something, the way I learned 3D was I didn't really there were no classes available. YouTube wasn't even a thing when I started learning 3D design. I had projects and I made myself make the project in whatever 3D program I was trying to learn.
Yeah.
And that's what worked for me. And now there's an incredible amount of resources for learning this stuff, especially Fusion 360. I mean, there's so much material out there, and I've put out some myself. But it's really, I think the best way to do it is just, I want to make this thing and I'm going to make myself do it with this software. And you do that a few times and before you know it, it's just kind of second nature.
It's beautiful. And the exploded diagrams, everything, like I feel like there's a nearby future where IKEA is replaced by some local shop that will just hand over these printouts of the exploded diagram and hand you your cut wood and have you just take it home and put it together.
Have you heard of oh man, I can't remember the name of there's a company that does that already. It's like there's a couple. There's 10,000 Garages is one. And then the other one is I think it's Open Desk is the name of it. Yeah. But that's basically what it is. Like it's sort of a network of micro factories basically, and they're distributed all over the place, and you can give them your designs, you can have them make stuff for you. But yeah, until everyone has a CNC machine in their house, it's probably going to be something like that.
Right. Well, it's exciting to have this design added to the catalog of things I can pay other people to router out for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how's it been going with now that you've got it and you've been living with it for a while, what are your thoughts on the design or how you do it different or what you'd encourage other people to do if they're going to take this on?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I think the first thing I would do is so that's a good picture. The lower part right there is for storage, right? So there's a bunch of kind of flat boxes. My wife's an artist, and she's always like packaging things up and sending them out. So we need a lot of space for, big flat things that can't take a lot of weight and can't bend. So it's good for that. Like it's a good storage space for all that stuff. But the problem is I have to take everything out to flip the table, right?
Right.
So that's kind of a pain. So the way I would do it differently is I'd make that part, that would be on casters, and you just move it out of the way, right? And then flip the thing. So that would mean the shelves on the ends would be, those would be engaged with the ground all the time.
Right. But the middle section would pull out.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I use those lazy Susan bearings instead of the shafts, like I mentioned earlier, then it would all hold together really well. Whereas with this, it's like, it's a little, it wobbles a little bit more than feels comfortable when it's doing the rotational thing. So I'd probably do that differently. Another way to do it would be, I don't know, I'm not as comfortable with metal as I am with wood, but I think probably a steel frame on the bottom would be really helpful. That would make it super rigid. And the other thing is I don't think I'd bother with the casters again because, I guess it's good to be able to move it, but it's kind of unnecessary. It's so big. It's like, where am I going to put it? I'm either moving it out of here or I'm, or I'm leaving it where it is.
Yeah. Well, you maybe caster the middle part just so that it can roll out, but the rest of it would just be
exactly.
fixed. Yeah.
I think that'd be the way to do it. And then you'd also, if you're doing it that way, you definitely want adjustable feet, with threaded inserts and little bolts. But it's great. I've used it a bunch of times, and it's I'm working on a vacuum system right now, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to make that a clever way to make that work cleanly.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Just there's a parallel timeline where you're in this animated GIF forever, just flipping the table.
It's hell. It's like I'm like Sisyphus.
Right. All right. Well, I'm gonna kick back over to you. Let's see.
Yeah.
Jonathan, that's all I got for you. I just wanted to do this as a test. I think that was a great project to start with, and I'd love to have you back sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. This was fun. Let's do it.
All right. I don't know if there's a way, if this is live, if there's any of the 9 viewers, if there's a way I can see if anyone's asking a question or something I can address. I don't want to be a bad host here.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know how to do that. So maybe I'll just have to deal with the fact that I'm a terrible host here. But let's end it there. And where can people find more of your work?
So if you just Google Jonatron, that's John-A-Tron, you should find my Instructables page pretty quickly. You can Google my name too, Jonathan Odom Designer, and you'll see some stuff there. But pretty much everything I do ends up on Instructables, so that's the best place to find me. Yeah, and I've got classes on Instructables about 3D printing and CNC and design in Fusion 360. I got a YouTube channel where I put some stuff up that mostly supports the Instructables, but that's mostly where things are. That's probably the easiest way to find out more about my projects and contact me with questions.
Okay, great.
Cool.
I'm going to end this here. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want more of this content. Hopefully I'll be doing more of this content. And if you're subscribed, you'll be notified about it. And hopefully this video, if it's not a disaster on the back end, when I look back at it, I'll publish it so that people can look back at this and pick out what interesting tidbits they want to take away from it. So Jonathan, thanks again. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.